Hello, this is Jim Hackridge, and this is my Science of Reading presentation. I am a substitute teacher at the moment, and I'm working on my master's to become a certified teacher. Okay, Science of Reading overview. Dr. Dr. Shanahan says that there's no set definition of science of reading. It's a mixture of phonic and phonological awareness that should include any or all methods to teach the kids, the students, how to read. Now, starting off with the first model of reading is Scarberg's reading rope. To be honest, when I look at this, I don't see it as a model per se, but as a clip art that is extremely useful if I am working with a child's parents to explain them what we are doing in class and what I'm trying to do with the child. I'm not going to go through this all. It's all really self-explanatory. Now, Dr. Eries, I hope that's pronounced right, Eries, 4 phases of word reading. It's interesting. Only clip art I could find to show this shows 5. But to go along with this, pre-alphabetic phase. That's where the child reads symbols. They see the golden arches, they yell McDonald's, right? Partial alphabetic phase is where they know some sounds and can spell some words. For instance, some sounds like P is P, or they can spell cat, C-A-T. Full alphabetic phase is, well, basically they can do all the common sounds and they can spell. Excuse me. Consolidated alphabetic phase is where they use chunks of words. Now this is interesting because they've learned that they don't have to spell out or sound out chunks. For example, ing, ing, is always ing. And so when they see that, they know that sound. They don't have to sound it out. For example, fishing, skating, and so forth. Now, the automatic phase seems to be somebody who can read. Everything's fine. Now, top-down, bottom-up model of reading. Dr. Friedman shows this, again, in the references you can find. Top down, trace a letter, sound out letters and words. You look for comprehension in the text. Or going from bottom up, you learn some phonics. In fact, he even says that phonics and spelling and alphabetic awareness and that sort of thing is useful for when you hit a word that you have no reference to whatsoever. When I went to school, I believe this is what I was taught. I don't remember phonics at all. And I was taught, when I found a word I didn't know, to look in the whole sentence or the whole paragraph for context, right? If we're talking about dogs, I don't expect to find a word about cats, for example. Now, phonological awareness. This is just a person's awareness, knowledge of the sound structure of words. And it's got syllables, it's got words in sentences, it's got rhyme, it's got blending. This all comes under phonological awareness. Phonics. It's basically just sounding out words, You know, let's keep it simple. It's sounding out words. You sound out the letters. The letters form words. Words form sentences. Sentences form stories. You get meaning from that. An interesting thing I found on this phonics is that in 1570 was the first time that the word phonics was used by a man named John Hart, who wrote a book on it. That book was published in London in 1574, and you can find a link in my references to it. Okay, fluency. Now, I know I'm not supposed to read the clip arts, you know, and stuff, but not much else to do. Accuracy, rate, expression, punctuation. Okay, this is what you need if you're going to be fluent in reading. Accuracy. If I'm talking about dogs, you know, and you say, oh, cats, that's not accurate. Rate. Rate now. This goes back to comprehension. I can read extremely fast, but I lose comprehension. I can read very slow, and I get bored, to be blunt. Okay? So I have to learn what speed I can read. This is reading speed is different for each person. I read pretty fast. You might read slower. No big deal. But as long as we both have good comprehension. Expression. I like to read with expression. This doesn't mean I get a fairy tale and I read with the old witch's voice and the young girl's voice. That means I actually read with some feeling. One of the worst things I've ever had is when I have somebody that just reads word, 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 word. Horrible. Punctuation. Well, when the period comes, when all this, this is where a lot of people fall down. How do I read a colon or a semicolon? Vocabulary development. Okay, this is interesting here. Vocabulary development. My first job working as a teacher was teaching spoken English in China. Each week I would have a subject, for instance, family, sports, whatever. And on Monday I would take and give the kids a list of words. Okay, they had to learn what the words mean. We would talk about them. I would pronounce them, then I'd have us pronounce them, then they pronounce them, right? Then I'd do a test. And the test was always, the first test was hilarious because I got a lot of, I do not know what X means. Had to stop that. Code emphasis versus meaning emphasis. Code, phonics, just simple again, phonics. Meaning is, emphasis is where you get the meaning from text. Again, I think that's what I learned as a kid. Okay, now, orthographic mapping. This is basically how you take a word and learn it and get it into long-term memory. I learn a word today and I remember it next year. This is orthographic mapping. It's basically the left side of your head. There's a little spot here in the front and two little spots in the back. Okay, those all together works together to have you remember words. Conclusion. Wow. Okay, conclusion. Very simple. I never used phonics. I'm learning it now. Late, but okay. And that it's good for me to have in class. So my references. Oh, thank you very much.